Hi everyone, Serena here from Spin and Dye in Texas. I am so excited. It is week 4 of our quarantine fiber group meetings, and I am back to spinning this week because I hate to admit it, but I'm still working on that rainbow yarn that I started or I was working on in our first week of meetings. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. I would love to see what you guys are working on, hear about what you guys are working on, and we'll just enjoy an hour of relaxing crafting, which should be on a t-shirt because it is the most relaxing, fun thing to do, just spending time with your favorite craft and enjoying the nice weather that we're having here today, at least. I have all my windows open. Hopefully we don't hear a lot of cars or kids. Thank you, quarantine. That probably won't happen. But we are having absolutely gorgeous weather here today. It is cooler than it should be in Texas. So Sunday, it was 80 degrees here. It was humid and kind of disgusting out. Last week, we had a couple of 90 degree days. And today, it was about 47, 48 degrees this morning when I woke up. And it's been a cool 65, 66 degrees outside all day. So my windows have been open. The sun is shining. It's just great. Of course, I closed the windows so I could talk to you guys because if the windows are open, it creates glare on the wheel because of the finish on my wheel. And it just isn't really pretty to look at. So I did close the windows, close the blinds so that hopefully you guys aren't getting too much of a glare from the sun outside, but gorgeous weather. I know some people had some bad weather this week. I hope none of you guys were part of that, but if you were, I hope you're safe and doing well now. My poor sister, we did have some bad weather this weekend, and we just had some heavy storms come through, high winds, that kind of thing, and my poor sister didn't have internet for about 24 hours, which I think most of us, if we weren't all in quarantine and stuck at home, we wouldn't mind that we didn't have the internet because, you go out, you do stuff. Yeah, you can't do that right now. So she was kind of out of luck for a little while there. Everything's back up and running now. She's fine. And thankfully, the weather did not cause anything worse than that here, but it was definitely an inconvenience for her. And we didn't have internet for a few hours, and I really didn't know what to do with myself. I do so many crafts that don't require electricity, don't require internet. I can just keep going and going. It's not a problem. But for some reason, not having that noise in the background of the TV going, the whatever, is so distracting to me. I have to have sound. So I ended up pulling out an old hard drive that I had some videos on and watched that instead. And I worked on, I'll show you guys what I worked on because I set it aside so I could show you. So I had talked the last couple of weeks about how my big thing, since I can't help make masks, is to start making things in preparation for the shelters when the weather gets bad again, when it gets cold. And so I have 10 hats finished, and I'm going to make more. I still have to do the fleece blankets for the animal shelter, but I have tons and tons of cotton yarn. Like, we've all done it before. I went on this weird kick where I just fell in love with the bright colors of it's called like peaches and cream or lilies and cream, something like that, cotton yarn. We've all seen it. It's at Joann's, and they sell them for like 99 cents for one little ball. And I went on this kick and I bought so much that it was 4 or 5 years ago. I'm still trying to work my way through it. So I had all this cotton yarn and I was trying to think of what I could do with it. And I decided to start making washcloths because they can be used at the shelters or they can be donated to people who are moving into new homes, maybe lost some things as a result of this or bad weather or anything like that. So I've got 10 washcloths completed and 10 hats completed. And that is what I've been working on the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And I'm making progress. So that's where I'm at on that. Oh, it rhymed. I'm hoping I'll probably work on the fleece blankets this week because the weather is so nice. If I wait, it's going to get so hot out that working with the fleece in and of itself will make me want to sweat. So I should probably get those done before it's 100 degrees outside. And it's too miserable for me to want to do it. So that if I finish those, I'll try and have some on our meeting next week to show you guys. Most of us know how to make the no-sew blankets. That's exactly what they are, just the tie blankets. But the thing I like about doing them for the shelters is because they're for animals, the sizes don't have to be perfect or standardized because you have small dogs, large dogs, cats, birds, depending on the shelter and what they service, what animals they service. So I like it because I can use small parts or remnants that I get from Joann. So I end up with a lot of funky sizes, but the shelters always seem happy to have them. So I'm happy to be able to provide them. That is what I've been working on this week. When I realized how much cotton yarn I have, I may end up with 1,000 washcloths. We'll see. And, oh, thank you, Marla. I think it's going to be really helpful, and it's the best thing I can do right now, being in the house, because it's hard for me. I'm a homebody generally, but being home and not being able to go see the things that I like to see, go do the things that I like to do is still difficult. And so it takes my mind off of it a little bit, which is nice. And also my husband and I love going to see this comedy act. It's called Master Pancake Theater. And before I give them this raving review, just so you know, I'm not being paid to tell anybody about it. But if you are not from Austin and you liked Mystery Science Theater back in the day, or the relaunch that they did on Netflix, you will absolutely love Master Pancake Theater. That's exactly what it is, only they're usually doing it live in a local theater here in our area. And so during the quarantine, because they cannot obviously have their shows at the movie theaters, what they're doing is they are doing a live stream on Twitch where they're showing movies that they've already riffed on and recorded, and they're showing that recording. It is so fun. It's so entertaining. It's a great way to just kind of forget about what's going on in the world. And so they're doing 3 shows a week, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on Twitch. Just search Master Pan. I think it's just Master Pancake, not Master Pancake Theater. And so we've been watching them, and I've been sitting and crocheting washcloths or crocheting hats while we're watching them, and it ends up meaning that I get quite a few done because it's a full length or close to full length movie. It ends up being about 2 or 2.5 hours of the evening. So it's fun. It's very fun, and has been, I'm so glad that they're doing it. They have guests on. They had, I can't remember his name, but he was the person who in the original Mystery Science Theater did the voice of Crow, and they had him on doing Stargate on Friday, and it was just fun. I was cracking up, my husband was cracking up, and I got through three washcloths, so also very productive for me, at least. That's what I've been doing to kind of keep busy. What have you guys been doing? I'd love to hear that. Feel free to let us know in the chat what you guys have been up to, trying to fill time, or if you're working from home, what you're doing to kind of separate home and work, because I would imagine that that's something that's very difficult to do, especially if you are doing all of it in one room or place. Just sit at the dining room table, then go to the living room for the rest of the night or something like that. So whatever you're doing, I would love to hear about that. You guys help me be so productive, by the way, because I'm already halfway through this first set of rainbow, and I just can't tell you how nice it is to share my crafting time with other people. I've also had a very exciting week, week since we last talked, if you didn't come to the Thursday meeting. I was outside on, I believe it was Friday night, and I was talking to my mom on the phone, just sitting on my patio, and I was looking over at my neighbor's house, and they had their front porch light on, and I could see this smoke wafting under their porch. So I told my mom, I gotta call you back. I don't know what's going on. So I walked around the house and I looked and I didn't see anything. And I said, hey, is anyone out here? Because I thought maybe someone had been smoking or vaping or something like that. And I couldn't see them. I could just see the result of what they were doing. No one was outside. So I'm looking, I don't see anything. I thought, must have just been some weird fog or something. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the backyard. So I go back in the backyard and I look, and sure enough, I can still see this smoke just wafting under their porch. Now I should mention at this point that it was about 10:30 at night. And I was like, I can still see it, that's weird. So I go back out to the front of the house. I go up to their porch and I'm looking, and I don't see anything that's on fire, but I see they have just a couple boxes, probably something that they were quarantining themselves or something like that. It wasn't trash. But I thought, what if it's something in the boxes that's smoking or on fire or chemical reaction? I don't know. So I knock on their door, and I knock, and I can hear their dogs barking, and no one answers. So I knock again, and I kind of wave my hand in front of the ring. I'm like, I'm your neighbor. I think something might be on fire, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, well, I'll come out and check. Because finally, the gentleman that lives there answered, and he said, well, I'll come out and take a look at it. Or no, he didn't say that. He said, I think it's our dryer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed because it was really humid out. And I thought, I just woke these people up at 10:30. They have a child. Not a baby, but a child. And I just woke these people up at 10:30 at night so that they would know that their dryer was running appropriately. I felt so bad. Well, thankfully, he came outside and he checked, and it was the dryer vent, and he thinks that maybe there was some lint in there that was just kind of not on fire, just heating up a lot. And so he did thank me for coming and telling them, but I felt so bad. But I didn't want them to be on fire. So I guess it was a good thing. But I came inside, I told my husband, I said, Chris, I'm so embarrassed. Never been so embarrassed, because he was just like, yeah, it's probably our dryer. But, so that was very exciting, particularly because their house wasn't actually on fire, which was nice, because that would have been terrible, obviously. And instead it was just, I said, well, at least they gave you an excuse to check your dryer vent. He was like, yeah, works for me. He was very nice about it, but I was very embarrassed. So that was my fun and exciting time. Friday night, and then Saturday, we had to go out for some basic stuff that needed to get done, that was important, not just frivolous. And so we got to see what the roads look like in a large city when there's nothing happening on a Saturday. And it's impressive how easy it is to get places when there's no one on the road. I mean, there were cars, there were people, but my GPS took me down a road that's all lights. You know, every block or two, there's a cross streets, and we made it down that road in like 7 minutes. Normally, my GPS doesn't even touch that road because there's just no way to get down there in 30 minutes, let alone 7. So that was pretty funny. But that's been our exciting time. If you were not in our first meeting and you're wondering what it is I'm spinning here, I am spinning some dyed merino that I got from Paradise Fibers, which I absolutely love their solids because they always come really nice, really smooth. And this is a spin that I've done before. So what I do, and hang on, I'll finish this piece off so I can I'll take this off and show you guys what it looks like right now. It's kind of a mess on the bobbin, but the pack that I buy is, I believe it's called Brights. It's all rainbow yarns, rainbow colors. So it goes from red through the rainbow, and then there's also some purples and pink in there. So I spin this straight rainbow and then tack the pink on at the end because it just looks cool. And then I'm going to apply it with a darker fiber that I'm spinning. It's also merino. It's the aubergine merino that Paradise Fibers has, which I didn't get out. I should have. And so what it does when it is applied with that darker fiber is it tones down the, we'll call it neon aspect of this single, and it comes out with this real pretty rainbow yarn that I've spun a few times and have really enjoyed. So that is what I'm working on today, is finishing up this single. I still have a fair amount to go at the end of this. So this is about 10 ounces, or the total amount of fiber that I'm spinning on here is about 10 ounces. So once I apply it, it'll be over a pound of yarn that I'm going to divide up into 4 small skeins, and 3 of them will be available on my Etsy shop, and then the other one I'm going to hold on to for a special project I want to work on. So that's what I'm working on today. If you're looking at it and wondering what is happening here and why do I keep seeing bright colors and just flying across the screen. I really love this spin though, because it's just amazing the difference that happens when you take these bright colors and add them and attach them to a darker yarn. It really does tone things down. In fact, in the tile for this video, you can see one previous spin that I had done of this, and you can see kind of how it turns out, and it really does tone down the neon without losing that feeling of the rainbow. I have been on a rainbow kick for about the past 4 or 5 months. I did a huge rainbow weave, which you saw if you are on my Instagram or on my Facebook. And I've done a couple of these spins, like I mentioned, and I've just been on this huge rainbow kick. So this has been this was a fun experiment to start with when I did the first skein, because I wanted to see how to make a rainbow that I could still do something with. Straight rainbow yarn is always very pretty to me, but I think it's harder to work with because it's so bright that it can get muddled when you crochet with it. I don't know if it's just because it literally is all the colors, and so that's what makes it muddled, or if it's because it just is too bright and has nothing to ground it. But with this spin, by adding that darker color, I find that it doesn't muddle up so much when you try and work with it. So that is why I've done this about 6 times now, and I'll probably keep doing it because it just comes out so pretty. And people seem to like it when I do craft shows and things like that, so that also helps. And I am making it through, so hang on, sorry. Got my hands all turned around here. There we go. Also, my dog, you can't see him because he's on the floor, but he loves to come. And this is Boomer. So Pickles is behind me. Rumpus is the foster dog that we're taking care of that I've talked about before. He's sleeping over to my right. And then Boomer's my dog. He's my little baby. And he loves to lay at my feet when I spin, and he will lay so that the wheel is touching his fur, and I'm always so worried that it's gonna get caught in a drive band and pull. But that's his favorite place, so he's down there, just kind of pushed up against the side of my wheel right now, and just relaxing and wondering why I'm talking to nobody because he can't see you guys. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Just so you know, that's a regular cough, not a COVID cough. Just from talking so much. You would think my throat would be used to talking all the time because I do talk all the time. But nope, still gets caught sometimes. So what else is going on? So other things I've done in quarantine, I have managed to watch now 20 seasons of The Simpsons, which I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 20 years, probably 10 years, something like that. And for my birthday a few weeks ago, my husband got me Disney Plus, which I absolutely love. I've had a great time watching some old movies and stuff like that I enjoy. But they have all the seasons of The Simpsons back from season 1, every episode. And so I decided that I was going to watch every single episode. For the record, when I say watch, doesn't necessarily mean just sitting and doing nothing and watching. I craft when I watch TV. I clean the house when I watch TV. I do all kinds of things. My TV's always on. So when I say I've watched every episode, I've heard every episode. I may not have been sitting in the room while it was playing. But I have made it through 20 seasons, and I had to take a break. I just, that's a lot of cartoon back to back to back. So I'm taking a break, and then I'll pick back up and watch the last 10 seasons. I mean, it's 10 seasons. I've already made it through 20. I might as well finish. But I forgot how funny it is. And there are a few episodes that have just made me crack up. And there's a few episodes that I swear I've never seen before, but I know them. And my husband and I were talking about it, and we realized that it's because The Simpsons is a part of American culture in such a way. I mean, it's been around for 30, I believe they're on their 31st season now. And so, like, the monorail episode, we all know the monorail episode. I knew the words to the song in the monorail episode, and even if I watched it 23 years ago. I think it was season 7. So it is very interesting to see how much you know or remember from a show like that that's just been around for years and years, decades, literally decades. And there's very few shows that can say that aren't the news. So it's been a fun way to kill time. And also Disney Plus has all their movies from the 90s on it. And so, of course, they have all the ones that everybody knows, even if you've never seen them, like the musical cartoons and stuff like that. But they also have the movie Shipwrecked, which if you have kids that like adventure movies, Shipwrecked was one of my favorites when I was a kid. And I went back and I watched it, and it still holds up. It's about a little boy who, in the mid-1800s, he just goes to be a sailor on a ship, and then there's a shipwreck. I mean, I know it sounds like a spoiler, but guys, it's in the name. It's Shipwrecked. So there's a shipwreck, and he's kind of Swiss Family Robinson meets Pirates of the Caribbean, but better for littler kids. Not quite as scary. I think Pirates of the Caribbean could be scary for little kids. So it's a fun adventure movie. I did go back and watch it about a week ago, and it was just a joy to remember watching it when I was a kid, and seeing it from an adult perspective is always interesting too. So that's been my life. A lot of TV, a lot of it. But I am about to start teaching. I teach spinning locally at a high school here, and we are going to make the attempt to do it as distance learning. So it's going to be exciting. It'll be interesting and new, and will give me something to do besides watching the last 10 seasons of The Simpsons. So I'm excited to get started. I know when I started spinning, I learned online for the most part. I did not know anyone who was a spinner at the time. I didn't even know anyone who worked with yarn at the time except for me. And I was able to learn, so I'm hoping that I can take what I learned from learning online and share it with these kids that I'll be teaching. It should be exciting. And if nothing else, it will kill the boredom. So I think, so I'm going to, just to let you guys know kind of where we're at with our spinning group, or with our fiber group. So I've done spinning and weaving, and then last week we did the ribbon weaving. I'm back to spinning this week because I really do need to get this finished. I've been working on it for a while and I keep stopping and starting and stopping and starting. So my goal is to get this finished this week, applied over the weekend, and then once that happens next week, I think I'm going to do 7 string braids. They're fun. You can do them at home with very, very few materials, and you don't have to have any specialized equipment. So I thought that would be a fun thing. If you know how to do 7 string braids, then by all means, get ready to do them with me next week. If you want to learn how, then please come by and check out what we're doing, because it's going to be fun, and it will be just something new to do. I'm trying to find things that we can all start doing, or if you're like me and you just get sick of doing one thing, you want to find a new craft to work on that you can right now, where you don't have to be able to go to the store and buy equipment that either the store isn't open or the equipment may not be available because it's being routed to other places. So that's what I'm going to do next week. The week after that, I'm going to do felting on soap. That's another fun thing that can be done, and can be done with very few materials, especially if you're already a spinner and have fiber. So that's what I have planned for the next 2 weeks. They have announced as of today that our shelter in place, it has been extended through May 8th. So with that in mind, I plan on continuing to do this at least through May 8th before maybe we'll readjust the schedule a little bit. So that is what I have planned for the next 2 weeks. I don't know what I'll do the week after that, but I'll find something fun. Maybe I'll go back and do another weave. I still have the project that I was weaving 2 weeks ago on my loom. It made me angry, the project did, and so I had to walk away from it for a little bit. Technically, it's not the project's fault, if I'm being honest. Technically, it's my fault. I have a really bad habit of having a good idea and not accounting for things like my skills sometimes, or my materials. In this case, it was a materials issue. I made it half-ish way, a little bit over halfway through the warp that I had on my loom, and I ran out of yarn. And it's a hand-spun yarn, so it's not something that I can order and do again. It was an art bat that I got from a fiber show probably 2 or 3 years ago, and so I can't really just go pick up some more and do another spin. So right now it's sitting on my loom until I decide what I'm going to do with it, because I could just cut it off and turn it into a table runner instead of doing the scarf that I wanted, but I don't want it to be a table runner. So I'm trying to see if there's a way to salvage it as a scarf. I don't think there is, if I'm being honest, but I'm going to try. So until I have my eureka moment, it's just going to sit on my loom. But if I get it off the loom, then in 3 weeks, I'll probably do some weaving and maybe do a houndstooth weave. That's a really easy one. It was the first pattern that I learned that wasn't just something that I made up. And it was so easy, and the result is kind of like doing the ribbon weaving that we did last week, where when you see it, and you realize you've actually managed to create a houndstooth, you go, oh my God, I did it. So that one's really fun and easy. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do something else entirely. We'll see. What did I do here? I messed something up. I think I put the colors in the wrong order. Oh well, don't tell anybody. I'm just gonna keep going. I told you guys before, I like my stuff to have a little bit of a couple errors. Without errors, it doesn't look like it was slaved over if it's perfect. So we'll just call that my error, and hopefully I won't make any more. We can dream, right? So I am really enjoying spinning the merino. I hadn't spun merino in a while. I was working on some Corriedale that I bought a long time ago. I think it was for Spin Olympics a year and a half ago that I just never got to. And so I've been working on that, and it's nice to be back to merino. I think I mentioned before when I was spinning, Corriedale is probably my second least favorite to work with. And so it's nice to be back to my merino fiber because it's just so soft and easy. And I think Corriedale, everyone says Corriedale is like merino, and I think it's scratchy. I don't like it. It always feels very dry, kind of like hay, only not as thick. I don't know. So grass maybe. So that it's really nice to be back to merino. But this weekend I was watching Master Pancake that we talked about a minute ago, and the movie that they were doing was the Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments, if you don't know it, it follows the story of Moses. And one of the scenes in the movie, they talk about the cloth that Moses was wrapped in when Bithia pulled him from the water, and they call it a Hebrew cloth, and it's this red cloth with a blue and a white stripe in it. So I started wondering how they wove and spun fiber back in ancient Egypt, and I kind of fell down a rabbit hole looking it up, and it turns out that what they spun primarily was flax, because wool, they would spin animal fiber, but animal fiber was reserved for the rich, and I couldn't find the exact reason, but it was considered taboo. I'm not sure if that was because it came from an animal or the animals that they used, but because it was considered taboo, it wasn't allowed in any religious temples or ceremonies that they had in ancient Egypt, which I don't know anything about their religious temples and things like that, but whatever type of holidays they would have, they could not wear any animal fiber. So they would use flax to make any wrappings and things like that. It also said that they didn't wear a lot of clothes to begin with. At that time, there was a lot of the dress that they showed. It was almost like a beaded sheath dress, but it was see-through. And I guess clothing in general was just not a very important aspect of the ancient Egyptian culture. But now I have this dream of getting some flax, spinning it up, dyeing it, and trying to recreate what I saw of that weave in the Ten Commandments, just to see if I can do it. Whoops, went the wrong way. Just to see if I could do it. So that would be a long-term project, though, and I have to find some flax first and then try spinning it, because I've never done that before. So who knows if I know flax is very rough, and so I may hate spinning it too much to actually make an final project with it. But that is my newest goal for my weaving and spinning journey is to recreate what they had on the Ten Commandments, because it does seem to have been pretty accurate from a perspective of the coloring that they used and the design that they show in the movie. Oh, interesting side note. If you watched the Ten Commandments last weekend, when they showed it on ABC, NBC, whichever one does it, and you noticed the weird to the side hairstyle that Yul Brynner has when they're still young, before Moses leaves Egypt, and he has the shaved head with just the little tuft braid of hair on the side. Apparently, at least according to my Wikipedia-ing, that was their actual style. That was a fashion statement in ancient Egypt, which I just thought was so funny because it's such a dramatic and very, very strange look that I always assumed that it had been for Hollywood, to add more drama to these characters on screen and everything. Nope, that was actually their hairstyle. So when the next time you are looking at pictures of your best bouffant from the 80s, or that slick oiled hair from the 90s, just remember, we could have all had shaved heads with side braids, which I guess would have been the Egyptian version of maybe like a mullet. It's like business on this side, party on this side kind of a thing. I don't know. It's an interesting choice. So that was my weird side note on my very weird rabbit hole of figuring out how they spun fiber in ancient Egypt. So my next thing will be to determine what they used for spinning equipment-wise, because I had trouble finding that when I was looking it up, and then I got annoyed because the internet stopped giving me what I wanted it to. And so I have to go back and look and see if they did drop spindle or if they had a version of a wheel, because I know that there were other versions besides treadle wheels that were more manual. I've seen videos where they actually hand spin the wheel, draft out the fiber, wrap it onto the bobbin, spin the wheel again, draft out the fiber. It's a really cool process. So I have to see what they did in ancient Egypt so I can get some accuracy in my new project when I get around to it. Now, let me be honest, I have lots of great ideas. They don't always come to fruition right away. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it was just a really good idea, and I can just keep imagining my great idea and not ever actually do it. This one I will do, but it may take me a very long time before I get to a point where I can complete it. So I'll start eventually when I can get back to a shop where I can look at some flax. Probably is when I will be able to at least start playing with it. And if nothing else, even if I don't end up with a final weave like what I'm picturing in my head, at least I will get the opportunity to spin flax, which I haven't done before. I've done cotton, but flax is different, I know. And so it'll be interesting to do that. I love spinning new fibers and trying things out and seeing what happens when when I put them on my wheel. Sometimes it's interesting what happens, because I've found that when I spin rayon fibers like rose fiber, milk protein fiber. Timbals, what are you doing? Sorry. I don't know what he's doing. He just got all excited. Milk protein fibers, anything like that. It's interesting when they are blended with something else, they make such a soft, heavenly product to spin. When you spin them alone, though, they tend to firm up and get really stiff. They still feel soft to the touch because of the texture of the outside of the fibers, but it can almost stand up on its own. It gets so stiff when you spin it. So I've learned to blend those fibers with other things. Same with bamboo is another really popular one. when you blend it, blend it with merino. Oh my God, just get out of here. It's great. But when I spun some bamboo straight for someone that had found some at, I don't know, an art shop or something, it was so stiff. It was almost like twine, the way it spun up. And I may have overspun a little bit. I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. And particularly then, I was still learning about different fibers and that kind of thing. But even with that, it was the fiber itself just was so stiff. So it's interesting. I like experiencing how fiber works on my wheel and finding new ways to do it. So, and I don't know if I mentioned I spin on a Louet S10. A lot of people call it a starter wheel. They say you can't spin lace weight on it. I love my wheel so much. It's my favorite thing. I have a couple other wheels. I think, oh no, you can't see it now, but I have one wheel that I borrowed from my guild that's an Ashford Traditional. I have a little Traveler wheel that was my very, very first wheel. And I have the Eel Wheel Mini. And I've spun on all of them. I don't like Ashford wheels at all. I'm sorry. If you're an Ashford fan, more power to you. To each their own, especially when it comes to spinning. Ashford wheels I find are very finicky, and I've never been able to get a fine yarn on them. Whereas with this wheel, I haven't found a yarn I can't spin on it yet. I mean, okay, wait. My own abilities aside, because there are plenty of things that I can't do when it comes to spinning. There are plenty of spins where I've attempted something and made a mistake or it just came out awful. But it's always things that I'm doing, that I'm still learning, or I made a mistake. My wheel itself, though, I've never found anything that I can't spin. The orifice is pretty decent size, so you can get a good bulky yarn, a good chunky yarn on it, and still be able to ply it. And I have, it's a jumbo flyer, I believe, but even then, it's just the flyer itself that's jumbo. The size of the orifice is pretty standard, but I've never found anything I can't spin on it, so I'll have to really fall in love with something before I move on to a different wheel. Now, I have some friends that swear by the Kiwi and swear by, which I have not spun on a Kiwi, or swear by, I believe it's the Ladybug. And I like my wheel. I don't know. I think we all get a little partial to them. I know people who name their wheels, and they're so important to what you want to do. But the Ashford Traditional and the Ashford Traveler, I don't like them. I'm sorry. If you like them, awesome. And if you can spin fine yarn on it, I would love to hear how you do it, because I have not been able to achieve that. I've not even been able to get close. I at least have reached consistency on the traditional wheel. I can spin consistently, but it's just so finicky with the tension that's the closest I've gotten, is consistent, which is not really how I like to spin. I prefer thin and consistent, because I just tend to spin thin. It's what I like to do, because then I can do triple ply, I can do double ply, and it just always ends up coming out the way I want it to. Oh, you guys are keeping me company, and I'm now almost 1.5. I laid out for our meeting, I laid out 3 full rainbows. So the rainbow pattern for this yarn is 10 different colors. So I have them all divided up into small pieces, so I can have relatively even chunks of color across the entire large skein. And I laid out 3 full repetitions of the rainbow. And I've gotten through 1.5. So thank you guys so much for keeping me company. This is the most productive I've been on my wheel since the last time I had it on here, so maybe I need to just stick to spinning because you guys help me get through a lot faster than I do when I am on my own and left to my own devices. I just tend to see shiny blue rocks, get distracted, and go do something else. I don't know why I love spinning, but I think having someone else to share it with helps a lot. So thank you all for being here tonight. I'm just flying through this. Hang on, got a little bit of a tangle here. All right, sorry about that. Sometimes I have to stop and think for a minute because if I don't think about spinning while I'm spinning, if I don't think about it too hard, my hands just take over and do what they need to do. But if I think about it for a minute, then I have to think harder to get back into the rhythm. I don't know why. I think that it seems very silly because I'm not doing anything different and I know how to do it. But if I concentrate too hard on it, it's like my fingers don't want to work anymore. They're like, oh no, you're looking at us, stop. Which is just ridiculous. What movie was that? I think it was Mystery Men. I don't know. It was a movie from the 90s where the guy had the superpower to be invisible, but only if nobody looked at him and he didn't look at himself, then he could be invisible. I think it's the same thing with my spinning. I can do it well as long as I don't look at what I'm doing and nobody else looks at it either. But as soon as that happens, all of a sudden my fingers are like, what am I supposed to do here? I've never done this before. Yeah, you have. So there is a podcast I listen to called Crime in Sports, which if you are into true crime, I highly recommend. They're very entertaining, not family friendly, but very entertaining. And their podcasts are pretty long, so it can fill up a nice chunk of time. But anyway, I don't know anything about what I refer to as sports ball. It's not that I don't like sports. Well, it's not that I dislike them. It's that it's just not something that's super interesting to me. So anything sports related is always very exciting and new to me because I don't know anything about it. And they were talking about a football player, and they said something along the lines of, well, he ran that 100 yards, and it turns out that a football field is 100 yards, which I know all of you are going, yeah, and I didn't know that because I don't really follow football or have ever really thought about it in any way, shape, or form. But anyway, they're talking about it's 100 yards and that's so far. And I was thinking about it and I thought, oh my gosh, I've probably spun about 400 football fields worth of yarn. And well, probably more than that, but recently, about 400 football fields worth of yarn, and it all fits in a box this big. Like 4 football fields, just 100, more than 4 football fields, because that's just 400 yards. This is probably more than 400 yards, what I have on here right now. And when you think about it, if you laid it all end to end, I mean, man, I'd probably cover every football field in the country. Not to mention if all the rest of the spinners out there did it too. And yet it fits in the tiniest little space. And I don't know why, but it just gave me a chuckle because now I know something sports related. I'll just throw that in the next time my dad's talking about football and I don't know anything. I'll just be like, well, you know, football field's 100 yards. And he will be so impressed. Okay, no, he won't be because he's a lifetime football fan and will look at me like, yeah, but I can dream. I can dream. And that is one thing that particular podcast, I know lots of sports heroes and sports stars names now because of listening to this podcast. Although the only thing I know about them is the stuff that maybe they wish people didn't know about them, like when they commit crime or just kind of go through bad times in their careers. So it's not necessarily facts that you can pull out at a dinner party, but it's fun and interesting to listen to. And at least I know their names now. So I was watching something on TV and they said, oh, Barry Boggs, I think his name is. And I went, oh yeah, I know that name. They talked about that guy on Crime and Sports. The episode was about someone else, but they talked about him. And so I remember and I recognized the name. So that's how I expand my sports knowledge, is through true crime. Because if I had to expand it through doing sports, I would probably be very, very bad at it. The only sports that I know anything about are hiking, if that counts as a sport. I don't think it does, because it's just walking at an angle. And that's pretty much it. I mean, people who can play football or play basketball, I am ridiculously impressed. The only time I ever really got interested in sports was during the 2008 Olympics. Everything from beginning to end of those Olympics, I even watched the equestrian events, not just like the swimming and the diving, because that was when Michael Phelps won all of his gold medals and everything. But I didn't just watch that. I watched everything. I watched the bow and arrow competition and the equestrian competition and all of that. I watched the China versus US basketball game. And let me tell you, I was riveted. I was having so much fun watching it. I think it's the only basketball, football, baseball level type sport that I have ever sat through an entire game and was not bored for a moment. It was so exciting. But since it's now 2020, and that was 12 years ago, I think I can say that my love of basketball is very limited to a specific type of event. But I do tell my nephew that he's 3, by the way. So when I say I tell him, I mean, but I tell him if he decides to play sports when he gets older, I would really prefer if it was basketball, because at least I know I can get interested into that. Whereas if it's football, the best I can do is be there to cheer him on, right? I don't really know anything about it, except that I will be able to tell him that he will have to run a football field that is 100 yards long. He will think I'm the coolest aunt ever for knowing that. I've been very talkative tonight. I mean, I talk every time, but I think I've been very talkative tonight. I hope that it's been interesting, because I was excited to meet with you guys and have people to talk to and have a specific project to work on. So I hope you guys have been interested, because I have had a great time talking about it. Or talking about everything. I think we've covered quite the gambit of topics tonight. We've talked spinning and football, and now you guys all have that fact, 100 yards for that football field. And neighbors' houses that aren't really on fire, but you can still wake them up, the whole house and all the dogs. So now this week, I don't have a ton on the agenda, except for meeting with you guys again on Thursday. For those that want to come, it's at 1 p.m. And I start teaching that class that I was talking about a moment ago. And then I think the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking my dogs for walks in the afternoon, because I think my dogs, we have a decent sized backyard. It's not huge or anything, but it's big enough. They go out there and run around. But they're not used to us always being here too. And I think they're getting a little bit stir crazy from all of this. So I'm going to try and start taking them on walks to get some of that energy out. because you wouldn't know it right now because they are all three of them being oh so very good. But every morning I wake up and I go make coffee and make breakfast and blah, blah, blah. And then my husband goes to the office that we have here in the house to work because he's working from home right now. And I start cleaning up and getting stuff done for the day. And Rumpus just follows behind me and goes, bark, 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 bark. And it is adorable and annoying at the same time because I can't really do anything without him barking at me. And one day I had said the night before, oh my gosh, I have so much to get done tomorrow. I am going to be moving all day. And it was just regular stuff. It wasn't anything huge, but it was just a plan that I had for the day. The next day, Rumpus is following me around as I'm running, getting this stuff done. And every time I stopped moving, he would start barking at me. Like, excuse me, you said you had stuff to do today. You need to get it done. It was so adorably frustrating, I can't even tell you. So I went into my closet because I had to adjust. I was cleaning out the closet and I had to fix how the towels were set up. It's not a big deal. But I crouched down kind of on my knees so I could get to the shelf that I needed to get to, and my feet were tucked behind me. And Rumpus just walked up, crawled between my feet, laid down, and fell asleep. I was stuck like that for 10 minutes because I couldn't bring myself to disrupt him because, one, he was adorable, and two, he was being quiet. He wasn't barking at me, so I was stuck. I ended up getting all the shelves fixed up while I was stuck there, but I was stuck that way for 10 minutes because I couldn't bring myself to disrupt this adorably annoying dog. So I'm going to try and start taking him on walks, especially since the weather's so nice, to try and get some of that energy out and give him the opportunity to see outside of the backyard. Especially Rumpus, because he's sick and he was new to the house just before quarantine started, I was taking him out with me quite a bit. I didn't really trust the other dogs with him because he was new and you want to be able to keep an eye on him while they get used to each other. So he was taking a lot of trips out of the house with me. And then since we're not making trips out of the house and the ones that we are making, it's get in, get out type situation, he is staying home for those. And the dogs are used to each other now. I'm not concerned about anyone's safety. So because of that, he's been stuck in the house now for 3 weeks, just like the other two. And I think I'll start taking him on walks. It'll be good for me too, of course, because walks are great. And that's going to be my big week. So I will let you guys know on Thursday how it's all going. And then again next week. But next week I will not be spinning. So we'll have the different setup, kind of like what we did last week. So you guys can get a good angle on what my hands are doing. And you get to learn something new or just braid along with me if you already know how to do it. It's very, very easy to do. So don't worry about that. But yeah, so that's the plan. And that's my week, my upcoming week. I look forward to meeting with you guys and getting this teaching thing started and seeing what it's going to look like. Because it is just so different from teaching in person. My wheel's been kind of loud today. I hope that's not annoying on the camera or on the video. I should have asked at the beginning. Now we're at the end. But if it was annoying, please let me know because I will try and fix it. It's kind of hard to do given the type of bobbin that I'm using, but I can try and dampen that sound if it gets really annoying for you guys. Then next time I will work on that. But, all right, we are right at an hour. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know people have kids to put to bed or just other work that needs to get done. So thank you guys all for joining. I had a great time. I hope you did too. I hope you had a productive time. Got to do get some of your crafting out of the way, or just relax into it if you've had a busy or frustrating day. I hope to see you all on Thursday if you are available, 1 p.m. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Spinning Die in Texas YouTube channel. You'll get notified when I go live that way. Follow me on Instagram if you want to also get notifications for upcoming live events. And I do tend to post my projects on there as well, although I have to take time to get pictures of them. So sometimes you might see them here first. But YouTube channel, Instagram, and then I have my shop on Etsy as well. So if you are looking for yarn or fiber, there is some up there. Of course, no obligation, but feel free to go take a look at that if you are just wanting to do some Etsy browsing this week as well. So have a great week. Maybe I'll see you Thursday. If not, I'll definitely see you Monday. And just take care of yourselves. Bye.